Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a very real ticking clock, water damage, specifically focusing on Jacksonville, Florida. We're going to break down exactly what it takes to save a property when the water starts rising and why every single second absolutely matters.
Let's jump right in. What actually happens when failing infrastructure meets relentless subtropical weather? Well, Jacksonville properties face a highly unique and honestly urgent perfect storm for disaster. Between the aging plumbing you find in historic neighborhoods like Springfield and the intense coastal weather patterns, the threat is just an absolute constant.
I mean, think about it. 52 inches. That's how much rain Jacksonville gets hammered with every single year, which is well above the national average. And this creates massive, recurring risks for riverfront and coastal neighborhoods. Places like Riverside, San Marco, and Atlantic Beach are especially vulnerable during hurricane season, king tides, or even just those intense sudden summer thunderstorms we all know.
Now combine all that heavy rain with a baseline humidity that sits above 70% for 8 full months out of the year. It's that thickness in the air Floridians know all too well, right? When you mix standing moisture with that oppressive, sticky heat, you've essentially created the ultimate breeding ground for an invisible, toxic enemy right inside your walls.
Because, you see, water damage is quite literally a race against time. The clock starts instantly. You have this incredibly narrow 60-minute window for emergency extraction. Miss that, and within just 24 to 48 hours, toxic mold spores actually begin germinating on wet surfaces like drywall, insulation, and wood framing. Complete structural drying then takes about 3 to 7 days, so you literally only have hours before irreversible secondary damage sets in.
All right, let's move into Phase 1, escalation, and the science of contamination.
So, to industry professionals, not all water is created equal. The IICRC, which is basically the gold standard in restoration, classifies water into 3 escalating categories. It might start out as Category 1 clean water from a simple supply line burst, but it can quickly become Category 2 gray water from appliances, or much worse, Category 3 black water. That black water, whether it's coming from sewage backups or storm surge flooding from the St. Johns River, is highly contaminated and just teeming with dangerous bacteria, viruses, and parasites.
And this is exactly why DIY attempts almost always end in disaster. If you try to tackle a Category 2 or 3 flood with a standard small shop vac from your local hardware store, it's basically like bringing a squirt gun to a house fire. You're just going to leave hidden moisture trapped deep in your subflooring and behind your drywall. Professional mitigation, on the other hand, utilizes these massive truck-mounted extractors capable of removing thousands of gallons an hour. They capture that hidden water before it literally rots your house from the inside out.
Okay, let's shift gears to Phase 2, the climax, triage and restoration.
When the worst happens, professional restoration teams, like the folks at Fortress operating down in Jacksonville, follow a really strict 3-step process to pull a property back from the brink of total loss. Number 1, emergency water extraction. 2, structural drying and monitoring. And 3, restoration and reconstruction.
Let's break those down a bit. Step 1 is pure triage. It requires arriving within 60 minutes flat with those massive truck-mounted units we just talked about. You absolutely have to remove that standing water immediately before that 48-hour mold window even has a chance to open. Every single minute counts when you're trying to save your flooring and cabinetry.
Then there's Step 2, which relies on sheer industrial power. We're talking desiccant dehumidifiers. This heavy, commercial-grade, trailer-mounted equipment is required to fight off Jacksonville's oppressive natural humidity. Since the outside air is already so wet, standard drying times just do not apply here. You need equipment specifically calibrated to evaporate deep structural moisture in highly humid coastal climates.
But they don't stop there. To make sure that drying process is actually working, technicians deploy a massive arsenal of specialized tech. We're talking thermal imaging cameras to map hidden moisture inside building cavities without causing unnecessary demolition. Professional moisture meters used twice daily to meticulously track the progress. Antimicrobial foggers to sanitize that dangerous Category 2 and 3 water. And HEPA air scrubbers to actively capture airborne mold spores. It's a highly scientific, heavily monitored approach.
Finally, we reach Phase 3, resolution, which is all about navigating insurance claims.
Because honestly, once the water is physically gone, the real battle begins. Proper documentation and daily moisture logs are the absolute only way to survive the insurance claim process. It's really that simple. Well, actually, the process is complex, but the rule is simple. If a restoration team doesn't meticulously record the entire drying process, tracking those daily moisture readings we just discussed, your insurance carrier might delay your payout, issue just a partial payment, or even deny the claim entirely.
Insurance adjusters demand undeniable proof. They're looking for direct insurance billing coordination, estimates generated through industry-recognized Xactimate software, extensive pre-restoration photo and video evidence, IICRC compliance records, and written guarantees of structural dryness. They need cold, hard proof that the extraction and drying work was medically and structurally necessary. If you don't have this exact paperwork properly formatted, getting your property restored is going to be incredibly difficult.
So this all brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with today. When the next storm surge or pipe burst hits Jacksonville, will you be ready to beat that 48-hour clock? Considering the rapid threat of toxic mold, the complex categories of contaminated water, and the incredibly strict documentation demands of insurance companies, you have to be prepared to act the minute water strikes. Time is for sure your biggest enemy here, but as we've seen today, with the right knowledge and an immediate, structured professional response, it's a race you can absolutely win. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.